Hey Blabbers, welcome back to the BackStreet Blab pod.
So this time we're on the streets of, I think, Clay Road
South
at
High
South
School.
Cobb High School.
My name is Danielle.
I'm Summer.
I'm Dovine.
I'm a lady.
Today's segment is on relationships. Whether you've been in one or not, everyone has their ideals, opinions on relationships, both platonic and romantic. Okay, now let's jump into the question of the day. What do you guys think is the most important in a relationship?
I think trust is really important.
I would say respect is the most important.
Okay.
I say communication because they gotta communicate like
Oh, that is true. Those are all good answers, but do you think that's the only thing you need in a relationship for it to stay healthy?
I think it needs to just be like a mixture of all the things.
Yes, I think communication is so important in relationships. It can just do such a big thing. Like one little communication or a conversation where you just see each other's point of views can really just change the whole outcome of how discourse or problems can be handled.
Relationship flows.
Yes. But in relationships, not all relationships are the same. Like we said before, everyone has their own experiences and not everyone is able to communicate the way that they think they're communicating. Sometimes they communicate with people and it just doesn't work. It just doesn't get across to them because people communicate differently. So when people aren't able to communicate in a relationship, how do you think that affects that relationship?
So you're talking about like miscommunication in relationships?
Yeah.
Okay. I think miscommunication, it just brings up a lot more conflict that didn't need to be there in the first place. Like it brings up misunderstandings or just false tensions that just really start to falter and mess up the relationship.
And you can also see this in friendships too, the way when you just have a feeling towards your friends, like let's say they did something to you and you just feel like, oh, they did you wrong, but you don't communicate that, and instead you choose to ignore your friend or suppress that emotion. It ends up coming out in your actions. Like you can just be hostile towards them, and you might just treat them, and sometimes they might not even know what they did, which is why communication is so important, because then you'll be able to get that closure and know where you stand and be like, oh, I know where to go on from now.
I had this one experience with a friend, and I had moved out from schools. And communication is really a key part of friendship because when I moved out, we stopped communicating, and we stopped communicating as we used to, and we started not expressing ourselves how we were feeling about our friendship.
Yeah, that's such a relatable story. But I have a question for you guys. Do you guys think that platonic and romantic relationships have a big difference in communication?
No, not really. If you have a really good relationship with your friend and your significant other, you may talk to them the same way. You may have different experiences within the relationship, but I feel like there's not really a difference in platonic and romantic relationships in terms of communication.
Maybe it just depends the stuff y'all talk about, because you can't talk about the same things to certain people. Even with friends, you can't talk about the same things with one friend group that you'll talk to with another, because just your experiences aren't the same. So it just depends what y'all go through.
The vibes.
The vibes.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with you guys, because I always hear stories about how people say that when their friend gets a significant other, that they kind of lose touch with that friend, and that connection and communication is not the same. Some people have different communication styles, and if some people are nonverbal and they don't speak to your friend or their significant other for at least a period of time, then some people might take that as a way of disrespect, or feeling like that person doesn't really connect with them, and that can really end up affecting the relationship. But some people in a verbal communication, they might want to talk to their significant other or friend every single day, and they might really see that as an important thing. So it really depends on people's communication style.
But also, like, I feel like there are different types of nonverbal communication as well. Like, nonverbal isn't just not talking to someone. Like, it can just be expressing their love for someone in a different way, like gift giving or acts of kindness or words of affirmation. Like, it doesn't have to be just not talking. Like, nonverbal isn't really in a literal sense.
Well, I never saw it that way. That's such like a good perspective to look at it from. So, like, do you guys have any examples of communication, like whether miscommunication or communication?
Or the styles.
Yeah, I have a story. This one friend, we miscommunicated. So get this right. She was sending these screenshots of this thing, and it was just really, it started getting to a point where it was just really annoying to just even get a message about. So one day I just texted her back and I was like, what do you want me to say to this? Because like by that point I had really reached my end. I was like, I don't care about this anymore. Like, I really don't. And so she took it as me saying like, oh, I don't care about you. And so she didn't even let me explain myself before she blocked me on iMessage. And I was like, what did I even do?
Message is crazy.
So I was telling like my other friend and I was telling my grandparents, because it's like, what did I do? Because I just felt like it was really a miscommunication and she was being a little childish and didn't let me explain what I meant. But I ended up having to apologize, even though I don't understand what I was apologizing for. But me being the bigger person that I am, I just sucked up my pride and I apologized because I didn't want it to get in the way of our trio friendship.
Right.
Oh, trio
That's
friendship.
real.
Ooh, trio friendship. Have y'all heard of like a duo and a trio? Like,
Yes,
all
always.
the time. Like,
But I feel like that's a real experience because, you know, even over text, communication is really just how the other person sees it, because you can say one thing and mean it in like a really nice way, but because texting is so like tone deaf, you really don't know like how somebody's saying what they're
Or
saying.
acting.
Right.
yes. Like, sometimes I can just be like really blunt through a text because that's just how I am. It's in my nature.
Right.
But like, people might take it in the wrong way and be like, oh, like that
She
was
hates
really,
me.
yeah, like
Why
that
is
was
she
really,
talking to me like
yeah.
that?
But it's like, no, I didn't really mean it like that.
Right.
So, like, guys, this conversation was just so interesting. So,
More
so much
interesting.
topics.
Right.
Yes, miscommunication, non-verbal friendships, blah blah, and all that gist.
Yeah.
But now we have to go, Blowers. Yes. So that's
So from this, let's just try to communicate better, express our feelings, and not harbor any tensions that could ruin relationships.
Yes.
okay, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning into the Lab podcast.
BackStreet Blabs.
BackStreet Blabs podcast. Thank you so much, guys. Love you. Bye.
Bye.